Some people claimed it was inevitable, others said it would never happen, but nonetheless, this week, Uniswap announced the Unichain, a brand new Layer 2 designed to prioritize the needs of DeFi users and protocols. It is a Layer 2 on the OP stack inside of the Optimism superchain, developed in collaboration with Flashbots and Optimism, of course.
Flashbots, huh?
Flashbots, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. We'll get into the Flashbots element in a second. But some key benefits here. Very fast block times.
Yes.
200 to 250 millisecond sub block times is what they're targeting. Is currently the testnet is currently clocking in.
That's real fast, right?
1 second block times. That's very fast. Arbitrum has 250 millisecond block times.
Okay.
Solana has 400 millisecond block times.
Okay.
Uniswap is going for 200 to 250 millisecond block times, which, if it comes faster than Arbitrum can speed up its chain, would make it the fastest chain in crypto, period. That's pretty cool. This, of course, actually Tim Roughgarden, who is the crypto economics expert out of Columbia, I believe.
Real smart guy.
Real smart guy. I'm dropping a Tim Roughgarden take. Actually measured that when you lower block times, you strictly lower aggregate MEV, which is important globally, but is especially important for the liquidity locus of crypto at large. So when Uniswap has its own chain with very fast block times, we are materially reducing the amount of MEV that is getting extracted from the users and from the protocol, which is pretty cool. They've also got seamless multi-chain swapping because they're going to be a part of the superchain, and the superchain is going to come in with their interoperability plan soon. Swapping on the Uniswap will be very seamless inside of the superchain, and then I think how this is going to work is they're going to fix perfect interoperability inside of the superchain.
Yes.
And then they're going to export those lessons to the rest of the.
And let's remind people what the superchain is. That this is the OP set of chains,
Yes.
right? So we've got a number of chains there. Base
is a part of the superchain.
OP
mainnet. Mode Network, Zora is part of the superchain. A bunch of others, which I might not able to pull off the top of my head right now.
So all of that will feel like one chain.
One chain.
One seamless chain. You won't even know. Like it'll be seamless interoperability. The wallet experience will be all the same across all of these chains.
I'd actually we are coming right off of the panel I was just at with Alex Glukowski from ZK Sync, and he thinks that he can ship perfect interoperability for the ZK Sync Elastic chain sooner than Optimism can ship.
Make them fight.
Yeah, which I think is just great. Okay, so big question.
Yep.
I own some Uni tokens. What does this do for my bags?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question. You want to look at the charts and answer that question first.
Well, strictly, my bags are up 14.5%.
Is that on the day?
That is
That's
on the day.
good.
It's in the 24 hours.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wait, so is this the market actually pricing a fundamental? Is that what just happened here?
Yeah, that's right. Somehow, this news actually was not priced in. And now it is up it's up to $8.26.
Wow.
But also that's because the Uni chain will have Uni token staking. And everyone likes to stake their tokens. And what do you get for staking your tokens? This is what we asked Hayden on our podcast with him. So if you want to learn more about the Uni chain, go to that podcast. It's in your podcast feed. You stake the tokens for money. You stake the tokens, you get money.
But you have to do some work.
You have to do some work.
What's the work?
I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah. You have to it's a sequencer validation, basically.
Oh, you're a sequencer.
Yeah, you get to be a sequencer. So it's like a work token for the Unichain network. Remember those work tokens?
It's always been part of the plan.
That's always been the plan. And what about the gas token of the Unichain? What do you think that'll be?
I have a guess.
What?
It's not the Uni token.
Okay.
It's ETH.
I hope it
because
is.
ETH is money.
We didn't ask that question, actually.
I think we just assumed.
Better be ETH.
It better be ETH. What else is it going to be? It's not going to be USDC. ETH is the dominant trading pair across Uniswap. It's going to be ETH.
This is a good tweet I enjoyed from Saigar. He said, some really cool innovations in Uniswap's L2. Uni staking to power sequencer validation, which we just talked about. Proposer builder separation powered by TEE block builders. I want to get you to explain that. Sure. Also, pre-comps from builders leading to lower latencies and protection from transaction reverts. Some of these seem very Flashbots inspired, very MEV reductionist, right? But what is this collection? The proposer builder separation, the pre-comps, the protection from transaction reverts. What is that, and why is that important?
Yeah, this is the Flashbots influence here. TEs is something that Flashbots has been meaningfully leaning into for a while now. We did an episode with Shay. I did an episode with Shay. It's on the Bankless Premium feed about TEs and the MEV supply chain. And
Trusted execution environments.
Trusted execution environments. Yeah, it's kind of like call it like a secure enclave for block building or other things in the MEV supply chain, sealing bids, protecting market orders, things like this. It's a little bit over my pay grade to fully flesh out on a weekly rollup, but Hayden actually explained this very well on the episode as well. And so this is it's both Uniswap pioneering the app chain thesis into the Ethereum rollup centric roadmap, as well as the frontier that Flashbots is developing with MEV supply chains and TEE as well.
This is Hayden Adams saying, excited to announce the Unichain. This is a labor of love based on 6 years of designing and building in the DeFi space. We think what we're building will be the best home for DeFi. That's very interesting. So in our conversation,
I've heard the home for DeFi is a line for a handful of layer 2s.
A lot of the L2s want to be the home for DeFi. I want to get your take on it.
I also would like to be the home for DeFi.
I mean, like the strongest, I think, take from Hayden in that episode that we did was basically, hey, Uniswap is doing the full stack, right? So we've got the app, we're doing the wallet stuff,
the front end.
We've got the protocol, we're doing kind of the decentralized exchange, and now a chain is kind of the full stack completion of that. When you look across the full stack, you can build a comprehensive user experience that is high quality, second to none. So that was his case for why Unichain. And also, I think they want to be the home of liquidity for all of decentralized finance. But to your point, David, so does everybody else. A lot of other chains want to as well. How do you think this will emerge? Do you think this will be competitive with Base? Do you think this will create kind of like a super chain mafia, competing against other economic zones? How do you think this all shakes out?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this. I think the biggest deployment of Uniswap after the Ethereum Layer 1 is, I think, Arbitrum's deployment of Uniswap, followed by Base's. And now there's going to be a chain. And there's also other deployments of Uniswap. There's Uniswap on ZK Sync. There's Uniswap. There's like 20 deployments.
So Ethereum.
Yeah, right. And so I think the Uniswap deployments inside of the superchain are going to kind of seed liquidity to the Unichain first. Base probably incentive-wise is begrudgingly going to seed it, but they also are a part of kind of the ethos of the superchain. So superchain liquidity going to go to the chain. Non-superchain liquidity going to try to be retained. Arbitrum's going to try and retain its Uniswap liquidity as hard as possible. And then I think the amount of liquidity inside the Ethereum Layer 1 Uniswap implementation of Uniswap is going to go to the Uniswap chain as a function of how good it is to do seamless, interoperable cross-chain swaps. If you have to bridge into the Unichain to then swap to bridge out, that's a lot of friction. People aren't going to do that. And if that's the case, then people are going to stay on the Ethereum Layer 1. And so I think the Unichain to Uniswap implementation on the Ethereum Layer 1, where that liquidity lies, will kind of be an index of how healthy the Ethereum rollup-centric roadmap is.
This is all MIT licensed, so completely open source, so anyone can sort of fork it. I think there's the objection out there. Okay, so you guys are launching yet another Ethereum chain, right? That's going to fragment things further. And I think we're in the stage in Ethereum where we've fragmented a lot, and now we're going to reconverge. So it's like this pendulum, swinging from divergence back to convergence, and now we're moving back into the convergence era, because I think what's going to happen, David, is we're going to have these superchain economic zones, whether it's kind of the Arbitrum stack or the ZK stack or the Polygon or the OP stack. They're going to be seamless and completely interoperable.
Inside of themselves. So you'll have 4 or 5 big economic zones. And then between these economic zones, we'll have intent standards that will pretty much provide abstracted, it'll feel like composability to an end user. It won't be complete, atomic synchronous composability, as Justin Drake says, across these different economic zones. But it'll feel pretty close. And that's how Ethereum will all converge together. And I, for one, I'm pretty excited that there's more competition in this space, even against Base. I'm so excited about Base and everything that they've done. In fact, Jesse, congratulated Hayden and the team for rolling this out. But it's good to see some competition in the mix, because we don't want any of the L2s to become
absolute dominant,
Right.
L2s and kind of like control everything across all of the ecosystems.
Yeah, you brought up intents. Intents are both going to help across the frameworks, like Arbitrum and the superchain will be gapped by intents, but also internally to the superchain, intents will also fill the gaps between chains. So even inside of these economic zones, intents still kind of fill the gap. Fill the gap here. I know Hart from Across has actually been a part of this whole Unichain effort, because how are you going to swap on Unichain without swapping your assets over to the chain? It's going to be through intents. I think Across is playing a large role here. And even I was just on the panel with Alex from ZK Sync, and ZK chains actually have stronger cross-chain composability tech than the OP stacks do. That's just what ZK stacks do. And even ZK stacks will still need intents, at least in the short term, to still fill the gaps between their chains. And so I think this is how this is going to go. All of these frameworks are going to achieve perfectly perceived interoperability amongst themselves. We're going to learn lessons about how they did that for their own internal systems. We're going to be able to export those lessons to across the frameworks after that.
Someone who came on the Bankless podcast 2 years ago, also wrote an article, predicted this, was Dan Elitzer. We should just
shout out Dan.
Foresight.
Once again, nailed it.
Yeah, this is his tweet.
He doesn't take many at bats, but when he does, he hits them out of the park.
Yeah,
he's
pay
like
attention.
5 for 5.
Yeah, so exactly like 2 years ago, September 29th, 2022, he said, he wrote a blog post called The Inevitability of the Unichain. And I think his take was like, apps want to receive some portion of the value that they create through MEV. They don't want to give that all to validators, and so they'll all launch their own chains. Anyway, very, very prescient post. Did you notice this, David? At the time, Vitalik replied back in 2022 to this tweet, and he said he had a hard time believing Dan's argument. He didn't think necessarily that Uniswap would have its own app chain. He said because the main value proposition of Uniswap is you can go and trade, done in 30 seconds. A Uniswap chain or even a rollup makes no sense in that context. Rather, a copy of Uniswap, and every rollup does. Where do you think he was coming from back then, and what do you think he would say now?
I think this take came inside of the era of the pre-economic zone layer 2s.
Yeah.
So in 2022, it was Optimism and Arbitrum and Polygon. And that was it. There was no super chain. There was no elastic chain. There was no, the idea of economic zones with interoperability between chains was not an idea yet. And so in that world, we haven't even had the conversation of Ethereum as being fragmented yet. People were just having fun in layer 2 land. And so I think that was a 2022 take. And now that we have these economic zones with, intents are now a thing. This was also pre-intents. So there's just like a lot of tech that just wasn't there yet. It is interesting that Dan cited one of the reasons why Unichain was inevitable was because of MEV. Uniswap was one, and it still is one of the largest burners of ETH, which is coming out of swappers and LPs.
Yeah.
Like it's Uniswap, the app, leaking MEV. And so why make an app chain? Why make the Unichain? Well, it's because they want to retain MEV. And I think that's right. But also Hayden and Dan Robinson from Paradigm kind of made an update to that take. Dan Robinson says, the Unichain is not about capturing MEV for their sequencer. It's about building a platform with consistent rules that lets apps and users, not sequencers, control their MEV. And so what the Unichain, I think, is going to do is it is going to recapture the MEV, just like Dan Elitzer said, but not to pump it into the Uni token, but rather to give it back to LPs and give it back to users and just have a really efficient exchange.
Yeah, ultimately, I guess, the hope is all of these MEV fees get back to users in the end, apps and then users in the end. One question for you, David. What do you think about Ethereum Layer 1? So there's been an ongoing conversation that we've been involved in, which is like the difference between the DeFi belongs on the Layer 1 versus DeFi belongs on Layer 2s. And the truth is, different types of DeFi belong on Layer 1 versus Layer 2, and you can kind of do both. But this would seem like Uniswap is the largest DeFi protocol on Ethereum, the Layer 1, the most successful. Do you think this is bad for the Ethereum mainnet? Of course, all of this, the L2s are built on top of Ethereum at the end of the day, but does this kind of, take away some of the value proposition of ETH, the asset?
I don't think so at all. And I think this whole like layer 1, layer 2 debate is getting heavily over-indexed on. Yet nonetheless, if you are at Permissionless, this is coming out after my talk, but I'm in a debate tomorrow with Kyle Samani and Max Resnick. But on my team is Jill Gunter from Espresso.
Yeah.
So it's David Hoffman and Jill versus Kyle and Max about whether or not layer 2s are extensions of Ethereum. In the future, there will not be, it's a layer 2, it's a layer 3, or what are we doing with the layer 1? It's just going to be Ethereum. And the way that take is incorrect, I think, is in the world where there's like a very small minority of very dominant layer 2s. I don't like that future. I do like the future where there is a wide pluralist mesh network of app chains like the Unichain, along with generalized layer 2s, but with other features as well, base rollups, stronger layer 1 execution. We can actually really start to blur the line between what is the layer 1 and the layer 2. Max Resnick wants to, quote unquote, make Ethereum great again by increasing the execution capacity of the Ethereum layer 1 in order to bring DeFi back to the layer 1. I agree with the direction. We should increase execution of the layer 1, but that's because it makes layer 2 execution better, and it also makes interoperability between layer 2s also better. I want fast block times at the layer 1, not to bring back DeFi to the layer 1, but because it allows for a mesh network of DeFi apps to exist across the layer 2. And there will be strong execution fees at the layer 1 because we have the Unichain and the Aave chain and the Maker now Sky chain and all these other chains. And all of those are going to be executed on by the layer 1.
And ETH being money across all of these economic zones as well.
When all the apps are capturing all the value, there's nothing left other than money.
So you're fighting with Kyle Samani too, not just Kane Warwick, huh?
Your boy's in a fighting mood.
Man, you are just fighting everybody this week.
If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.